Is your child struggling with reading, writing, or spelling?
Do you suspect they might have dyslexia?
At Hill Country Dyslexia Services, our team of experienced educational diagnosticians are here to help.
We offer a thorough evaluation process at HCDS to help you identify your child's needs.
Call us today at 512-648-2291 to schedule an appointment and take the first step towards supporting your child's learning journey. Hi, this is Amy
and Melissa. We are a couple of retired Texas teachers who are CALTs, Certified Academic Language Therapists. We started our own businesses, and now we have a podcast called
The Dyslexia Duo. So join us for our informative podcast, where we'll delve into dyslexia, covering the topics that affect parents, therapists, teachers, practitioners, and anyone who wants to learn more. We'll guide you through everything you need to know, from the first signs to the intricacies of dyslexia curriculum placement and beyond.
This season, we will cover the referral process, what to expect when your child or student is dyslexic, the generational impacts of dyslexia, and how to support those affected.
Come join us! For rejoining us while we continue our conversation with Maryanne Wolf.
You had mentioned that dyslexia is still a grossly misunderstood phenomenon. Yeah. And even with all the information from all the wonderful researchers like yourself, like Dr. Hasbrook, Dr. Gabb, yes. Dr. Motes, for example, yes. Why do you think it's still so misunderstood, and what could we do differently?
It's such a good question, Melissa. And to take a positive view, I use my own son as an example. He never, ever wanted to be called dyslexic until he was in high school, and ultimately in college. He went to Rhode Island School of Design, where he realized he's not the only one who can't do what others do easily. And he was surrounded by people like himself who had all these great advantages in things like the ability to take the visual image and to make art, architecture, or to make patterns. A lot of entrepreneurs see their problems and they do amazing problem solving because they can visualize things that the rest of us do not do. So it took him a long time. And then he realized that to be dyslexic was cool. And so I saw in the transition from the onus that the teachers placed on kids who were doing something differently and not doing what they told them to do, that has changed immensely. We now, of course, have much better and much more knowledge that the average teacher has, a special education teacher has. But still, if you look at some of the facts on the ground, and there are data showing that our special ed teacher has much less knowledge than you would think about literacy and dyslexia than a literacy specialist. And that should not be. The special ed person has, in these data, has about 57% on these tests of literacy, whereas the literacy would be in the 70%, which still isn't enough, by the way. But the reality is that means our schools of education need a lot more work on how do we teach all children, which means how do we teach struggling readers, which means how do we teach children with dyslexia, individuals. So we're still not there, but we are better than we were. And there's so many, if you will, celebrities or people of celebrity status, including my own governor. Gavin Newsom is dyslexic and wrote our children's book on dyslexia. And so we have many of our entrepreneurs. One study by Julie Logan done a long time ago in England and the United States showed that about a third of our entrepreneurs have a history of dyslexia, a third of our most successful ones. And so, and you look at Silicon Valley and Hewlett. I mean, you look at all of these people who have a history of dyslexia. We look in the investment world, entrepreneurship, like Charles Schwab, who has not only a history of dyslexia, a history of philanthropy and dyslexia, which is very, very important. So, and then there are places that have made the link between creativity and dyslexia much more visible, whether at Yale or, oh my goodness, there's so many amazing people who have looked at what are the advantages, and a lot of them are filmmakers. Oh my God. I won't use Harvey in this, but some of you know when I say Harvey.
I know Harvey. Yeah, he was at IDA. Yeah.
Did you meet him?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I chased him down for a while trying to talk to him.
Oh, good. But you have these filmmakers who are just wonderful. And then you have people who are doing good podcasts like yours that spread the word. You know, we have much more of a presence as an area of not just education, but celebration of people who are dyslexic. And, you know, you look at the history of art and my gosh, look at Rodin, for heaven's sakes. And there's even some hints of Picasso. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to go in that line, but because my son, Ben Wolf Nolan, once told me, Mom, and this was in Barcelona where Gaudi has all these amazing architectures and all these amazing colors. And I said, he has to be dyslexic. And Ben said, Mom, not every artist is dyslexic. But just for the record, Melissa and Amy, I then went to biographies of Gaudi and found out he had a very hard time inexplicably at school since he was so smart. Duh.
Yeah.
It was just undiagnosed because we didn't, you know, they basically in that period of time didn't know what it was, right?
Right,
So,
right,
I mean,
right.
They called it Wortblindheit in Germany, word blindness, and no one, you know, in Barcelona would have called Gaudi word blind, the most visually gifted person in the city. So, but anyway, all to say, dyslexia's image in the world has changed, but insufficiently in the schools of education, where teaching our new teachers about how to teach all children and struggling readers and dyslexic readers is still way behind. Now, I'm going to do something. I know we're going to do a screenshot later. I'm going to give modules on dyslexia, 7 modules that we now give teachers in our schools of education in California. And I did this for Comer Yates at Atlanta Speech School. He's going to put it on the Cox campus website, these modules.
Nice.
But I will give something for your audience when we do a share screen so that we can give them a QR code.
Absolutely.
That would be wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
would be wonderful. I do have a question, and it was on our list of questions, but I'm kind of going a little off at the same time. I've noticed, and I'm retired from public ed now, but a lot of our districts are going to digital copies of textbooks, digital copies of books.
Yeah.
And I know personally,
Mhm.
I have a hard time reading a digital copy. There's something about a book and be able to see the pages and the length, how long the page is, and being able to take in that whole page. And I don't know, it feels different when it's digital. Is that
You're
is that
absolutely
impacting
correct.
our students?
No,
Okay.
Amy, it is unfortunate, but people do not, to this moment, have sufficient research to prove exactly what you say. But we have some research. And basically that research is showing, and when I say some research, we actually have some huge meta-analyses that show that if you give the same little story in print and digital, now the amount of people who are in these studies, this is called a meta-analysis. This was done in Europe. 171,000 subjects from the last basically 2 decades of studies on this. And that was the only thing. You just read it in both medium, and then you answer comprehension questions. The ability to remember detail, to know detail in the plot was so much better in the print format. Now, the question that I had and they answered was, what about the last parts of the sample in which the digital natives were really the participants? So not the 2000 to 2010, but let's say the 2014 on. Those would be digital natives. What were they like? The surprising answer was they were even better in print than their cohort. Why? Because when asked what they thought they were better at, they said, well, we're better at the screen because we're faster, not realizing that that is basically skimming and having less relationship to the deep, what I call the deep reading processes under comprehension that take more time. So the data now have gotten much, much more advanced by this group is actually in Barcelona, of all things. I just talked about.
Of all things.
And Salmaran, Delgado, Anne Mangan from Norway. There's all kinds of people doing all of this work. Naomi Barron from American University here in this country, and myself, Reader Come Home, really summarized that data but in some ways I need to write a new book, which, God forbid.
Like when you have the time, right?
God forbid that I say that out loud, but I do have to do something to help people realize this is a much bigger problem. I testify or write or do interviews now in Europe, especially more recently in Norway and in Denmark. Also, Korea is doing it, and I'm trying to tell them the same thing. Don't digitize those children's books. Do not do that. The amount of digital exposure, this is a new study it's called the Singapore study. The amount of digital exposure between 0 and 8 is correlated. Now, I'm going to say correlated, and that is not necessarily correlated with poorer attention and academic performance. JAMA, our Journal of American Medicine, found that that's even for 0 to 1, that the kids, it's not academic performance, but on language, is the more digital exposure, the less, if you will, enriched those language areas are. And a 1-year-old. So we have data from 0 to 1, 0 to 8. We now have the college age, young adults. Now, we don't have these pure, this is causal. What we have are these terrible threats that correlations nevertheless point us to. And I'm telling Korea, who was absolutely amazing country for its educational achievement, I'm just telling them, don't follow Sweden, which digitized all their kids and then found the academic performance going down. And so then they had to reverse. Now, Norway, which always has a kind of a competition with kind of a football game type competition, they wanted me to testify so that they really didn't follow Sweden's example. Same thing going on in Denmark. Now, the fact is, digital technocracy overwhelms everything in our lives right now. But people don't realize that it is a different experience. And part of that experience has to do with comprehension monitoring. And that's where, Amy, your experience actually has multisensory aspects. You can, without realizing it, the haptic, the feel, the kinesthetic makes it real. There's a smell to it. If you're a 3-year-old, you can eat it. But, all of these are actually sensory aspects that are there, but they're connected to cognitive aspects because there's spatial memory that you have when you see it in a book. And you kind of know, well, oh, gee, that must be in the first third of the book. If I remember, it's like left side, low, close to the bottom, and you have
Yes.
more spatial memory than you ever realize. But you also have spatial memory at a micro level. When you are reading, you actually are, it's with a book, you're able to go back and check yourself. This is called comprehension monitoring. And you can do that on the screen, but by and large, it's too much work. And so you don't. So the screen is the hasten us along mode, and the book invites us to think more while we read.
That's
Fascinating.
I was trying to explain that to another teacher, and she's like, why wouldn't you want a digital book? You can click on the word, it can explain it, you can highlight it, you can look. And I'm like, yeah, no, I use all that stuff. And I appreciate that when I need a book immediately, I can just probably download a copy. But I don't feel like a good reader.
You don't immerse.
Even with all those tools.
You are not. And the real word for a lot of people that helps trigger their understanding, reading a book is a more immersive experience. Now, I'm explaining immersive cognitively, sensorially, basically intellectually. But the reality is you are feeling a lot more, you are thinking a lot more because you have more time to allocate when you have a book.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Now a word from our newest sponsor. Established in 1926, the Gow School is the first school in the nation created for students with dyslexia and other language-based learning differences.
Today, Gow is a premier boarding and day school for students in grades 5 through postgraduate.
Located 30 minutes from Buffalo, New York, Gow's campus features 7 dormitories, classrooms, an indoor athletic center, sports fields, theater and art studios, a robotics lab, and more.
To find out more about this nurturing and supportive academic environment, please visit www.gow.org or call 716-652-3450. Let's return to the show.
So you had mentioned in that discussion about deep reading. So what is deep reading? Can you explain that a little bit more and how teachers can develop that in their students?
Yeah, basically it's a panoply of processes that begin with what do we know? And so the deep reader is pulling together almost immediately a matching game between what they know and what the text is telling them. And let's just call that background knowledge. From that, they make inferences. Is this something I don't know? Is this something that it really is? So they are moving from analogical skills to inferential skills. Well, inference is actually part of analogy, but it's looking at these matches between what that person's knowledge base is and what is being given to them in this text. And it could be fiction, it could be nonfiction, but nonfiction is quick and easy to understand in terms of background knowledge, but fiction is really a beautiful way. I don't know people like this. What in the world? Who are they? So we're actually trying on people's thoughts and feelings we never had, which is part and parcel not just of background knowledge, but of empathy, passing over. Very, very important. In Ravo, the new E is empathy.
Oh, wow.
We really want to have people understand how important it is to take on the perspective of others. And in this climate in our country, when so many people are polarized and think that whole swaths of people are other instead of others,
Right.
we really are. You remember The King and I, we've got to be carefully taught, that one song. Well, I take that in a different way. We've got to be carefully taught to have empathy for other people's perspectives. And so I'm really emphasizing how important empathy is as a deep reading process. And the one that needs perhaps equal, if not more weight, is critical thinking. You have to have time to evaluate truth. And kids today are the most susceptible victims of misinformation and disinformation. And we really have social media. Blaming does nothing. rather understanding that social media can have a useful role and a threatening role is important. But it really can be very destructive when people accept rather than analyze critically what is being said in all our different media. And finally, I guess the ultimate deep reading process is insights from that person, their own deep reading self. The heart of reading is always to think for yourself, which we actually embody in a little character called T-Lex, which I'll show you.
Yes, I'd love to see
Yeah,
that.
I really want people to understand you can teach critical thinking from the start of reading. It's a really important message I want to get to everyone. Critical thinking and empathy begin from the start.
Well, and I
Absolutely.
wanted to kind of bridge back to our conversation about the digital world, because I think this is kind of intertwining, at least in my brain. You had mentioned this deep thinking and the empathy, but with the development of AI,
Yeah.
and how you could just tell the AI what a general idea of what you want to say, and then it spits out this whole long
Yeah.
diatribe of what it knows. Do you think we're eventually going to kind of unteach ourselves how to think or how to have that empathy, or kind of?
Ooh, interesting.
Oh, I'm right with you, Melissa. I had a podcast for an NPR program of Colin McEnroe, and I said my worry is that we're going to develop cerebral wall-E's, that we farm everything out like Wall-E did,
Yes, yes.
that's what he did, and he became obese and unable to do a thing when basically AI took over. And
Yes.
there's that. And then there's the worry I have that actually wasn't Wall-E, but pre-Wall-E, and that is if we don't teach our children how to think and write and go through the arduous, and it is laborious, it is work, but that's creating some of those connections and circuits that enables that brain to analyze what's being spit out. How will they ever really know what's true? And
Right.
I mean, we are farming out for people who already have formed brain circuits. But what if we're doing this for our young who haven't formed that? It's bad enough for us. It's much worse if they never formed those difficult ways of translating thought into language, into written language. That helps reading and understanding. It helps writing. It helps thinking. So, Melissa, you added one other thing. It helps feeling. It helps empathy. And so I have to say, I hadn't ever included that when I talk about this, and I appreciate your insight.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. That means
That's
a lot.
That's awesome. So, Dr. Wolf, can you show us a little bit about Ravo?
Oh, yeah, let me get a
Okay.
share screen on here. Well, actually, I can show people Possum. Duh.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it.
Do you see Possum now?
Yeah,
You should take a picture of Possum
I am going to take a picture of Possum.
because that's the essence of Ravo is Possum.
I
And
love it.
if you see this, possum in Latin means to enable. So it's not just a marsupial. Okay, and then what I wanted to show people is that basically Ravo is part of our NICHD randomized controlled treatment studies. And what we did was we reversed engineered the reading brain. So you see possum in the circuitry right there, if you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we changed, if you will, that intellectual or cognitive appreciation of Ravo from the standpoint of reverse engineering the brain into strategies. So we have one, if you will, character for each part of the reading brain. And let's just say I'll do one for, so here's Mayor Mick. He's teaching the connections, the semantic connections. So he's our semantic neighborhood. He's the mayor of Ravo Town. He is so interested in helping people understand the connections among words. But one part of semantic network theory, or how kids learn, is the word polysemy, which I used before, which means that a word can have many interesting meanings. So we have a character for that named Ms. Mim, and Mim stands for many interesting meanings. So both of these are characters that are teaching metacognitive strategies about semantics. And then we have Korean basketball teenagers playing Jam Slam are their names, and they are teaching us blending. They're basically synthetic phonics teachers using basketball as a metaphor. And then we have characters for every part of speech, Nina, noun, etc. And then we have basically my favorite new character, T-Lex. Now, Melissa made me think of this. T-Lex stands for try, 3 morphemes, think, a saurus lizard, dragon. So that we're using morpheme knowledge, try, thinkosaurus, lex, meaning word. But then we just call it T-Lex. But we use that not just for morphology purposes, but very importantly to teach 3 deep reading processes. Think ahead, prediction. So all the kind of prediction strategies one uses. Think back after you read the story. And here's where we're really going into background knowledge. We're going into what plot, setting, all these sorts of things. But then that middle head is think for yourself. And so what we're doing is we're connecting empathy and critical analysis to the ultimate think for yourself. What do you think? What are your insights? What does this make you imagine, connect? So it's a really important metacognitive strategy, but it's visual. It connects to their knowledge about T-Rex, T-Lex, T-Rex, and it just makes learning how to think about stories more fun. And so Ravo is really about science, and back to, if you will, the possum is our science, basically. These connected together increase fluency. So what we really want people to realize is that your advanced understanding, your expanded foundational skills, all contribute to decoding a word faster, more accurately, with more meaning and understanding of how that word works. And part of that is also an unknown gift when we did the first Ravo, without knowing that I was as much a psycholinguist teaching how English works as I was a cognitive neuroscientist. So this really helps English language learners learn English better. And that's why it was really important to us to have this kind of knowledge about English for our students. Now, I'm going to end this part of Ravo. The data are terrific. You know, we know.
Wow.
We know. Now, and I want you to know these are 2 different, what I call Ravo, and my colleague Maureen Lovett's program, we call them multi-component interventions because they go after different components. And whether it's Maureen's program or my program, and she does work that we go from 1st grade to 4th grade, a little beyond for our super struggling readers, but she goes all the way into adolescents and adults. And it's just a wonderful way. I would say, we did 2 versions of multi-component. Ours is possum, and hers might well be called Pom, because she doesn't do semantics and syntax the way we do. Or she does, those aren't her emphasis, but we're possum, she's Pom. I hope forgive me, Maureen. Because they do a lot of story work too. But anyway, these are all leading us to an understanding from our data that
Wow.
the sooner the better, do it. Now I'm going to end this actually by giving you, here's the modules that I want you to have. So we
Okay,
have
thank
all of these modules. We're finishing effective instruction this month. But the next one, this is our QR code. And we want people to have that QR code for the modules.
Great.
And
Got
then
it.
this one is just if they want to know more about Ravo, you can come to my booth at Play. Oh, darn it. Just like how I met you at the IDA booth. That was so nice. That was really terrific.
That was really nice.
So
really nice.
I'll put that away. And so I want all of you to know that it's podcasts, the dissemination of this kind of knowledge that ultimately, drop by drop on the rock, will change our teaching and change our attitudes towards dyslexia. So I thank you both. I would love a link. We'll put it on our website and give it to people.
Oh, thank you.
Because we would like to have, different things. We had one for classroom dynamics for New York, and again, all of these are in the spirit of how can we reach more and more teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
Please be sure to know I am grateful for your work.
Oh gosh, we are endlessly grateful
Yes,
for you.
for
and
sure.
yours.
Thank you
Oh
so
my
much.
goodness.
Okay, and tell
Thank you so
Dorlyn
much.
Martin that I say hello. She is your
And she's going to be so embarrassed that you said that.
Oh no, we want to have part of this. I want to thank Dorlyn. She's one of those teachers who never stops teaching, and now she's helping us with Ravo. So all of us, wherever we are, have something to give. And so Dorlyn is one of my examples of you never stop giving to your children, your students.
She is, and I think our audience didn't hear us before. I worked with Dorlyn in 2 different school districts, and she is just one of the kindest, sweetest, smartest people without letting you know that she's the smartest person. She will just listen, and she listens with her heart when she listens to you.
Yes.
And gives great feedback. She's really kind. And when she told me a long time ago, she goes, "Oh, my daughter dating Dr. Wolf's son." And I go, "What?" And I said, "Wait, what?" Because I focused back in on it. I go, wait, Dr. Wolf, like the one we know, Dr. Wolf? And she goes, "Yeah." I was like, "You are burying the lead here." And then they get married. And I was like, "Wait."
And now, and if you had seen that IDA booth at one point, there was my son, who's now the director of Needle Learning that houses it. His wife, Shay, who's like unbelievably smart and has all these strategies, and her mother. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. And then Amy Ellison, who is one of the finest Ravo teachers, who's co-writing with me. So what we have is a family operation, which we never thought we would have. It's really, that's a
so
fun way
awesome.
to end my time with you, Amy and Melissa.
You've been a
We are
gift.
family. We are a family. That's really what it amounts to. When we are teachers, we are a family of teachers of all students, wherever they are.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay, take care now.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye. The Dyslexia Duo podcast hosts are Amy Rodenroth.
Melissa Dean.
Our producer is Greg Rodenroth.
You can find us on Facebook at The Dyslexia Duo.
Email us any questions or comments at thedyslexiaduo@gmail.com.
Awareness is so important. Share this podcast with your friends
Family,
and teachers.
thanks for joining us.
Bye.